We often overlook the quietest person in the room, the one who sits in the corner, observing everything but saying nothing. We assume they're just shy, or perhaps a dreamer. What happens when a child's genius is forged in starvation and sharpened by isolation? The result was a ghost that haunted the heart of China for 4 years, leaving behind 67 confirmed victims in a spree that defied logic. This is the story of Yang Xinhai, a golden child whose intellect became a weapon and China's most infamous serial killer. Hi, I'm Richard, and you're watching Dark Silk, a channel dedicated to the crimes of the East that the West rarely hears about. Hit subscribe if you want to keep following these hidden stories. Now, let's get into it. Yang Xinhai was born in July 29, 1968 in Henan, China. He was the fourth of 6 siblings in a family that didn't just struggle, they lived on the razor's edge of survival. The Yangs were the poorest of the poor, living in a cramped shack shared with a cow stall. On the worst days, when the grains ran out, they survived by foraging for wild vegetables and even eating grass just to stay upright. But while his surroundings were dire, Yang's mind was a hyperactive engine. He was the classic anomaly, painfully introverted with no friends, yet possessing a terrifyingly sharp intellect. At 6 years old, having never spent a single day in the classroom, he was placed directly into the 2nd grade. He was a natural talent, a student who won school awards and had an uncanny gift for drawing. His father recalled that whatever Yang drew looked exactly like the real thing. To the villagers, he was a hardworking, honest, and well-behaved boy, the golden child of a broken family. But the smarter he became, the more he retreated. His intelligence didn't bridge the gap between him and other children, it widened it. While other kids played, Yang herded cattle and cut grass in silence. Yang was painfully introverted. He was a boy who could solve complex problems and render perfect images on paper, but couldn't or wouldn't connect with a single human soul. Against all odds, the silent brilliance made him the only member of his family to reach high school. But in the 1980s, intelligence couldn't buy food. While other students traded grain from home for meal tickets, Yang had nothing. He lived in school dorms as a shadow, forced to cook wild vegetables alone in the corners of the cafeteria while other students ate together. This was the ultimate contrast, a mind capable of the highest academic achievement trapped in a body that was literally starving. But as we're about to see, you can only push a hungry mind so far until something breaks. At 16, Yang dropped out of school and ran away, saying that being around people and hearing their voices bothered him and he couldn't stay there for even 1 more second. He was looking for an exit, heading straight for the industrial heart of China. He was filled by a singular hope that outside of the confines of his village, his brilliance would finally be recognized. He wanted to be someone who mattered, but the real world wouldn't care about his IQ or his gift for drawing. Yang was swallowed by the grueling life of a migrant worker, drifting across North and East China. He spent his days just as another body in coal mines and on construction sites, taking any odd job he could find just to survive. This was the first true wake-up call. Yang was putting in the effort he thought that would change his fate, but the system broke its promise. He was regularly cheated out of his wages and treated as a disposable cog in China's massive economic machine. To a man already alienated from everyone around him, this wasn't just bad luck, it was the confirmation of everything he already believed in, that the world had nothing for him and owed him nothing in return. The breaking point came while he was working at a restaurant. After once again being denied his pay, Yang stole a simple meal tray. It was a petty and impulsive act of defiance, but it led to his first criminal conviction and his first stint in a labor re-education camp. By the time he was sentenced again 2 years later for theft, the golden child was gone. In his place was a man who had decided that if the world didn't give him what he was owed, he would simply take it. And soon, taking wouldn't be enough either. In 1996, the petty thefts escalated into violence when he was sentenced to 5 years for attempted sexual assault. He was then released early in 1999. What came next lasted 4 years and crossed 4 provinces: Henan, Hebei, Anhui, and Shandong. 67 confirmed lives, 23 sexual assaults. He didn't have a type, he didn't have a signature weapon, he just used whatever was available. Hammers, axes, shovels, beet cleavers. Yang had stopped thinking about society entirely. He became a hunter of the night, riding a bicycle for miles, picking a farmhouse at random and wiping out whoever was inside. Grandparents, parents, children, 3 generations gone in a single night. On October 2002, Yang attacked a family living in a remote farming area. He killed the husband with a shovel, strangled their 6-year-old child, and assaulted a pregnant woman who later died in the hospital. Just 10 days later, he killed 5 members of a family in Henan, including a young girl, using a hammer. What makes Yang truly disturbing, however, wasn't just his brutality. It was the clinical intelligence he brought to his crimes. This was the golden child using his brilliance for the ultimate evil. He treated his murders like a design project, calculating every detail to stay invisible. He purposely wore shoes that were several sizes too large to throw off footprint analysis, leading police to look for a much larger man. He even had a psychological ritual that mocked the very idea of a human life. He often wore white clothes while committing the murders, only to leave the blood-soaked garments near the bodies as a cold, final signature. Then, in a sick cycle of displacement, he would steal the clothes of his victims and wear them, literally living the lives he had just extinguished until his next kill. When police later asked why, he didn't give a dramatic manifesto. He simply said, "When I killed people, I had a desire. This inspired me to kill more. I don't care whether they deserve to live or not. It is none of my concern. I have no desire to be part of society. Society is not my concern." For years, the police were baffled. The sheer randomness of the killings, spread across thousands of miles and 4 different provinces, made it impossible to link the cases. Yang was a ghost, a man who had left no pattern and no trace. But on November 3rd, 2003, his luck finally ran out. In Canzhou, Hebei, Yang was sitting alone in a nightclub, likely scoping out his next target. When police entered for a routine identity check, the man who had outsmarted the combined forces of 4 provinces finally cracked. He panicked. As he tried to slip out through the back door, his behavior caught the attention of the officers. That one moment of visible suspicion was the only opening they needed. When they finally ran his name and cross-referenced his DNA with the ones found in the victims, his dark empire of secrets finally collapsed. Faced with the evidence, Yang didn't just confess, he spilled everything. 67 murders, 23 sexual assaults. It was a body count far higher than anything the police had even suspected. During the investigation, one final grim detail emerged. Yang had contracted HIV from one of his victims. He was already dying. The law simply got there first. On February 1st, 2004, the court sentenced him to death. Yang waived his rights to appeal without hesitation, as if the whole thing had simply stopped interesting him. Just 13 days later, on Valentine's Day, he was executed by firing squad. Yang Xinhai was a man who acted like a god in a world of his own making, but in the reality he left behind, he was just a broken man who left a trail of shattered families in his wake. That's what makes this case stay with you, not the numbers, not the brutality, the fact that the mind behind it all could draw anything and make it look like the real thing, and in the end, use that same precision to make 67 families disappear, leaving behind hundreds, if not thousands, of family members traumatized. If you know of any other cases from the East that we should discuss here, leave a comment below. I'm Richard, and this has been Dark Silk. Take care of yourselves and each other. I'll see you guys in the next case.